IPR Laws with Shivarthi Bajaj, and my name is Kabir. And today, very interesting topics. Before that, let me introduce you to Shivarthi Bajaj, co-founder, managing partner of RSD Bajaj Global and iNeva. ये मुझे लिखना पड़ता है क्योंकि मेरा दिमाग, you know how it is. शिवार्थी, आपको कैसा लगता है जब मैं आपको इंट्रोड्यूस करता हूँ? बहुत अच्छा इंट्रोडक्शन करता हूँ? नहीं, नॉट रियली.
No, Kabir. Firstly, it's a pleasure to be in conversation with you at Red. Red FM has been very kind. And,
Hey, thanks for coming and actually sharing the knowledge on this particular subject.
These are very small issues.
ये सब चलता है, ठीक है. Okay, so what we are doing today is with a lot to cover, but three major things: geographical indications, traditional knowledge, and trade secrets. We'll start with geographical indications. What it is, like मेरे को जब बोला था geographical indications और IPR के अंडर, तो मुझे लगा था GPS तो नहीं है, Google Maps की तो नहीं बात कर रहे है, क्या ये? What is it?
Okay. So GPS was actually a good analogy that you drew.
Okay.
Just speaks volumes about your intelligence.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, because geographical indications basically are indicators that identify with a product or a particular thing originating from a territory.
Area se.
Yes. So geographical indications are basically indicators. So indications are indicators which tell us whether it's a region or locality or a territory that gets a reputation for a particular thing.
अच्छा.
Wherein it originates from. It is
originating from
a region. Like Champagne, the wine. So it's from a region, Champagne in France.
Okay.
Like our Bikaner Bhujia is from Rajasthan.
बीकानेर से इसीलिए. Okay.
Your Banarasi sari.
Oh.
So like that. So what basically it can be an agricultural good. It can be a natural product.
Okay.
It can be a manufactured product, goods of handicraft like your Madhubani paintings.
Madhubani paintings is there.
Your food products.
Darjeeling tea.
Darjeeling tea
is an example.
Yes, it's actually one of the first GIs in India. That's a very interesting fact. So now why I said it's a good analogy that you drew with GPS, because GPS is also about location, right? So this is also about the location where it erupts from.
Achha.
In terms of from that perspective. Now, Darjeeling tea was one of the first GIs, and it is basically the tea that grows in Darjeeling.
Absolutely.
And the interesting fact about GI is that it is owned by an organization, more than one person, basically.
Yeah, that's what I was coming to.
Yes.
कि जो GI है, ये जो geographical indication है, उसके लिए कोई फाइल करेगा कि भाई दार्जिलिंग टी जो दार्जिलिंग से आई, इसको दार्जिलिंग टी, एंड वी विल use this as a GI, as a part of the product, and somebody sitting in Connecticut in US cannot, right?
Right.
If I understand correctly.
You are right.
So who can file for it? Because this is a very generic thing, right? जैसे बनारसी साड़ी हो गया या फिर मधुबनी paintings हो गया. How does the filing procedure works, or who can file for it?
It's a community that files for it. Like the Darjeeling tea is owned by the tea board and the government to a certain extent.
Okay.
So it's a board, it's a community. Now the Banarsi saris would be a community of people who are protecting their particular art in a way. That whole community owns the GI to use that. Now there is again a very thin line between usage of a GI and a trademark. Something like Lipton Darjeeling tea. Right now Lipton is the trademark. Right? And Darjeeling tea is the GI. So when they are using Darjeeling tea, it either is a known fact that they're doing it with Darjeeling tea as a GI, or there is some arrangement in terms of a contract, etc., for Lipton to use that GI. Okay. And similarly, it would be like, suppose in Europe, someone's selling Darjeeling tea. So the reason for GI is that they should know that it is not, selling fakes to a certain degree. Claiming it to be of that origin, special origin of that place.
Okay.
So that's the purpose of a GI. It is a huge asset for the particular area and community, for them to protect their culture. It has huge value in terms of that aspect as well.
What will be the examples of indications which are not registrable? Like you cannot register these things. Like if scratching
any
just
product,
the surface.
any product causing hurting religious sentiments, deceiving a community, or being fake, or something that's contrary to public morality, things like that. Yes.
Okay. So जैसे दार्जिलिंग टी में आपने बताया कि बोर्ड ने फाइल कर रखा है भाई कम्युनिटी है दे ओन द राइट्स टू दिस GI geographical indicator. But what are the rights that that particular board or that particular community has when they file for a GI? I mean, legitimately, and it's theirs. What are the rights that they have?
So intellectual property rights as an ambit, like as an umbrella, gives you a protection to use a particular right and protect the infringement and hold an answerability for a person infringing. It does not enable the holder to prevent someone from making a product using the same technique as those set out in the particular standards for indications. But however, it usually is obtained by acquiring a right over the sign that constitutes the indication, which basically means that if a third party is infringing that particular thing, it gives you the tool to say that ये आप हमारा infringe कर रहे हो.
If we take the same example, अगर यूरोप में दार्जिलिंग टी कोई कंपनी बेच रही है, so they have to of course, like manufacture it in Darjeeling and take licensing also from this particular community and the body.
Licensing, see, Darjeeling tea will be unique to the Darjeeling place. So as it says, it's unique to a place. Like the Banarasi sari will be unique to Banaras. The Alfonso mango would be unique in a particular way. The Nagpur orange will be unique in a particular taste.
Okay.
The Agra petha is unique to Agra.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. You can't really replicate the soil, the environment.
It has to come from there.
If it's food, if it's artisan artwork like your Madhubani paintings, where will you get those artists from? So it's basically a cultural protection to give a high value to the supply chain. It helps in, like you were asking me about the advantages. तो वो एक high value chain हो जाती है to the user, to the
makes sense
originator. In a
Makes
great
sense. Like
way.
because it is unique to them, to that geographical location.
Yes.
And any case laws which has happened around GI, like
this is a famous Rasgulla case between Bengal
Though I am
and Odisha.
trying to reduce my calorie intake, but okay, let's talk about Rasgulla.
Yeah, so between Bengal and Odisha, wherein they say that there was a Rasgulla, what should it be called? And वो किसका GI है? Then ultimately it was settled as Bangar Rasgulla and Odisha, I think it was Bengal Rasgulla and Odisha Rasgulla, but the Rasgulla term was kept neutral because it's neutral.
Because it's
but if you could
Rasgulla,
prefix it from that particular name of the state or word, that would become a GI of that state. So it was one of the interesting cases that happened.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What is the way to go about registering a GI? Like, is there a process?
Yes.
And I mean, is it like forever, or like what happens? Like, let's say if somebody, like for Darjeeling tea, the board that you were talking about, they registered it, right? So they can register it for how long, and how is the continuity? How does it goes on and on for years? Because Darjeeling tea abhi ki thodi na hai, to kai saalon ki hai na?
That's a very good question. Protection of the timeline is a very important aspect. It's 10 years right now.
Okay.
And but it can be renewed. Renewals, it's called renewals. They can be filed to extend the timeline to 10 years.
So usually a board might renew it every 10 years, every decade.
Most communities do, because that's where the value lies at.
There must be some exceptions, of course, under geographical indications. Are there any exceptions? Like कि भाई ये नहीं, ये चलेगा, हो सकता है, नहीं हो सकता.
There are few exceptions in the TRIPS agreement, but those are mostly when there are something that has become too generic to fall under the ambit of GI. But that has to be, it's case to case, matter to matter.
Okay. Yeah. So बट देर आर थिंग्स विच कैन बी जेनरिक और उसको आप नहीं कर सकते कि भाई
हाँ,
बोल दिया जैसे कि भोपाल का बादाम,
जिसे आप कुछ चीज को गुड फेथ या इट बिकम्स टू जेनेरिक, सो बट दैट हैज टू बी वेट इन अ या.
Now that we know what is geographical indicators, how is it different from a trademark?
Very good question, Kabir. A trademark, as we discussed in the previous episodes, is a sign or is for an enterprise or a good and a services, a mark. It can be a name, it can be a logo, it can be a phrase which gives the owner the exclusive rights.
The one that we talked about. ऐसा कोई सगा नहीं जिसे हमने ठगा नहीं, can be a trademark.
And trademark in a lot of cases can be an individual right also. GI is about the source of origin, the area where it's coming from. Like
so there are more parties involved.
More parties involved, and it's specific to that area, that region. It's more static, and it is community owned. Unlike a trademark can be more fluid and imaginary. That comes with a deeper story in terms of a geographical indication. Unlike a trademark, which you can think of something and go ahead and say, okay, this is unique, I'm going to file this name.
Then how does traditional knowledge plays in? Because that is also a very important part, right? Like traditional knowledge kahan pe aa gaya APR mein?
Okay, yeah. So traditional knowledge is another leg which deals with basically जिसे हम कहते हैं दादी माँ के नुस्खे. You know, the stories that have been passed on from our grandparents in terms of nuskhas. Not even India में नहीं, बाहर भी I'm sure हर country के होते होंगे अपने. उसको हम कहते हैं traditional knowledge. Now IP में कैसे आती है? Because IPR is about intellectual creation. Okay. Right? Something that is created from your intellect, and how do you protect it? Right? So how it falls in IPR is because a lot of things that people feel they have discovered right now. I've used the word discovered because discovery per se cannot be an invention. Okay. Right? Is not an invention.
It is not. Yeah, agreed.
A very popular case in this case was the Haldi case. Like Haldi was patented in the US. So this has to be golden milk latte कह रहे हैं यार. So which is basically which is हल्दी का दूध. Now it's time immemorial in India. सबको पता है, मतलब आपके नेफ्यू नीस को भी पता होगा कि हाँ अगर हल्दी का दूध पी लो कोई बेनिफिट है इसका. So when US patented it, then kind of India got awakened to the realization that okay, this is getting out of hand because India, Europe, all these countries like इसकी medicinal properties हैं, healing properties हैं. अब हमें तो पता है वो. So there's something known as prior art search. So now to prove कि this is existing as a prior art, it was a very good initiative. Obviously Haldi was challenged and it was closed in terms of the patent being revoked or a limited claim being given. So similarly was the case of neem also.
अच्छा नीम भी कर लिया.
हाँ नीम भी कि ये हीलिंग है, एंटीसेप्टिक है. हमने कहा हमसे पूछो क्या क्या है, अभी तो आपको पता ही नहीं है. Your mothers will tell you more than your research will ever will. So you know, like that. So things like that got the government concerned. The CSIR along with the Ayush Ministry, they built the TKDL library, the Traditional Knowledge Digital Library.
Achha, there is a library.
Which is a huge move, because it basically allows an access to your knowledge base, which has existed in India from time immemorial, but वो language अलग होती थी. The language used to be Sanskrit. It's not only covering Ayurveda, it's covering Unani, it's covering Siddhi, it's covering Yoga. So it's covering a lot of things. Like I think it's covering some 93,000 plus Ayurvedic concoctions, around 2 lakh Unani or 1,75,000 Unani, like that, 23,000 Siddhi.
And who has access to these libraries?
It's publicly available, and it's available in multiple languages for other offices also to access, like in Spanish, in Japanese, etc.
ताकि वहाँ पे कोई करे तो उनको दिखा दो भाई साहब.
Because how do you prove it to them, right? At the end of the day, it's about proving that, okay, show us how it's done before and how it's a mere discovery and not a इन्वेंशन. अब कल को कोई कहे कि अच्छा अश्वगंधा खा के ये हो जाता है, बट it's been known कि हाँ ये तो होता ही है अश्वगंधा खा के.
Focus more.
It's a known. अब हम उसे supplement कहते हैं, but it's a known thing.
It's true.
So ऐसी चीजें, you know, a person to patentate it and then have a monopoly over it is not right. So from that perspective, this library is useful, and that's what we call as traditional knowledge. So this protects. This is, I'm speaking from the perspective of India right now. So India mein this library exists, and it has moved in a huge way for other such patents or other such protections to come into place. And it has worked wonders in terms of intellectual property being limited or protected for known traditional knowledges of India. कि आप गिर गए और उठ गए तो उस पे नीम लगा लो, you know, हल्दी का दूध पी लो, तो all these things ये सब पता है. तो ये अब हमसे कोई लेके उस पे exclusive right claim करे अगर, so it's to protect that is where traditional knowledge comes into play.
Next subject which you want to cover. Very important, like, you know, everybody believes, like, you know, specifically startups में ना काफी लोग आजकल ना believe करते हैं कि ये तो मेरा trade secret है.
Let's not talk about it.
Let's not talk about it.
Yeah.
So under IPR, intellectual property rights, what exactly are trade secrets?
Okay, so trade secrets is something which, as the name gives away, is a secret of a particular trade. Now, trade is a business or any form of trade that can be. And when I say secret is something that is not known to the public at large. It's not published in any form. And it has to be commercially valuable. And it is known to a limited number of people to run that commercially viable proposition. And and that's it. And there are enough actions done to keep it a trade secret in terms of contracts within the group of people known.
So, जैसे कोक का फॉर्मूला है ना, किसी को मालूम नहीं कि उसका स्पेसिफिकली कितना क्या डलता है. Will that be a trade secret?
Yes, that's in fact a very famous example of a trade secret. People who know the trade secret don't travel in the same plane at the same time. Yeah, these are the actions they take to protect, and whoever knows the formulation takes steps to protect it. But ये tech में भी बहुत ज़्यादा play होता है. Like I'll give the example of Google's algorithm.
Nobody knows how it works.
And it's regularly updated. So अब हर बार वो करेंगे, हर बार उसे publish करेंगे. So nobody knows the Google's algorithm. It's a very well-known trade secret. Not known trade secret.
Like how they operate.
Like nobody knows trade secret.
Why is the protection of trade secrets important? Like, you know, आपने बोल तो दिया कि चलो ठीक है 11 herbs and spices, but why the production is important? Like
commercially valuable.
Achha.
It has to be commercially valuable. Yes.
Majorly the reason will be that.
It's not like what two girls spoke each other. Like a gossip is not a trade secret. Or two boys exchange information on a particular person. If two boys or two girls are gossiping, that's not trade secret. But if it has some commercial value to it.
Are there any known trade secret, filed in India? Like.
So a trade secret will per se never be filed, because if you file it, then it's open for public introspection and public use. A lot of manufacturing companies. So trade secret is not only food, right? It can be a process also. It can be a process at a manufacturing unit. It can be data related to client data in a particular firm.
So ये trade secret रहता कितने time तक?
A list of supplies, your advertising strategies. All these can be trade secrets.
So if I as a normal person challenge कि भाई ये trade secret has been around for last 30-40 years, now it should be out in the public. Can I do that? Or I mean, what happens?
So trade secret per se is a right which is never filed, but it is yours by way of protection, by way of not enough people knowing about it.
Okay.
So if there's only a group of people who know about it, it's a secret till the time they're able to keep a secret.
Okay. But what are the ways to protect it? Like, are there any legal ways?
Yes, there are contracts. There a lot of times the Copyright Act comes into play. The Indian Penal Code comes into play. The Indian Contract Act comes into play. The Competition Act, etc. You know, there are a lot of acts that come into play in terms of protecting a trade secret in between that particular group. Yeah.
And if there is infringement, for example, Coke का composition है, मेरे को मालूम चल गया. are there any laws in play? What happens? Like मेरे को मालूम चल गया, कैसे भी मालूम चल गया, लेकिन
if
मुझे
you know
मालूम
the
चल गया.
exact
composition.
So firstly they'll question the people who know the exact composition, that how did it go out.
Absolutely.
So if it goes out through, obviously it'll go out through the, suppose there are 3 people who know it, right? And if one of them has leaked it, then they would know that person would be held answerable in terms of the whatever inner contracts they
कैसे
have.
बाहर गया.
Yeah.
लेकिन what I want to know is, can I float a product which has, let's say you have a company, you have a trade secret, I come to know of it, and I float a product or a company using the same trade secret, will you be able to sue me?
If you can crack it, you go ahead and float it. So that is why it's kept very tight. So, we know there are chefs who just come and make the base recipe, and then it's distributed from that particular point to the various outlets. So sometimes there's only one
they
person
don't
who
come
knows
to know.
that. In terms of manufacturing, there's a particular oil that's being manufactured, or there's a particular ointment that's being manufactured. Sometimes it's a trade secret where the composition is only known to 1 or 2 people.
So, okay, as a conclusion, what I really want to know from you is, do you think it's progressive to have trade secrets?
That's debatable, because in terms of other protections also, you have to out your inventions, or you have to out your recipes, or your the things that you are wanting to protect. But that needs, again, that gives you an exclusive right. So that's timed. Like a patent is timed for 20 years.
Okay. Interesting. But law comes in play because the way you want to keep your trade
the way you want to keep it, what are inner contracts, aapke within the tight knit people, what is the kind of IP or non-IP laws that are coming to play that you're doing to protect.
If that particular leaves the organization, then they come under the law that they will not be able to share the...
There are NDAs, there are non-competes, non-disclosure agreements, non-compete agreements, etc. There are many things that go into play to protect.
Elon Musk ने अपनी टीम वालों का बहुत करवा रखा होगा ना ये सब, because the way they use batteries for their electric vehicle. I can only imagine इसने इतने sign करवाए होंगे ना.
Yeah, of course. I mean, especially if unless वो patent नहीं करवा रहा है अपनी inventions को, तो वो कुछ तो करेगा to protect. Otherwise, every Tom, Dick and Harry in the street will
walk out, join a Honda and like, हाँ मैं बताता हूँ ये ऐसे बना रहा है, तुम भी बनाओ.
Rocket बनाए.
हाँ, rocket ऐसे बनाना है. Cool. So that's Shivarti Bajaj. Shivarti, that was a very nice, interesting session. How can somebody reach
Kabir.
you guys if they just want, more information generally about all these interesting topics?
Sure. They can send us an email at rsd@rsdbajajglobal.com. And of course, all the social media handles are
Brilliant.
active.
Coming up next, we have one more very interesting podcast for you, but we'll let you know what it is in the next episode.
Thank you, Kabir. It was a pleasure.
You.
93.5 बजाते रहो.